There is no investigation. This boy has...
There is not, really? It is to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has...
is not, really? It is to me. Right. Idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, you know, that's real tough.
but I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
There is not, really? It is to me.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys. But I have to...
There is no investigation.
Don't
Welcome,
say any F's and stuff.
welcome to the lab. We got a good show for you tonight.
But I have to put her...
We got a good show for you tonight. It
on the
is
side and worry about the boys.
6:33 here on the West Coast, August 11, 2022. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up on your way in. Appreciate everything that you guys do. You guys mean more to us here than you'll ever realize. And without further ado, let's just get into it. Your favorite and mine, Mr. Chris Mcdonough. How's it going, Chris?
Josh, you're looking fly, buddy. You're looking fly.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Great to be here. Hey, lab rats, and good to see you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for your hair looks, I mean, it literally looks like you got a blowout.
You know, I got the fluff going, and here's the good news: when you get to my age and you have hair,
Yeah.
that's a win.
Right.
That's a win.
Oh, I 110% agree. Most people at your age, you're not even like, I mean, you literally have a full head of hair. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm not as old as people think. So,
Well, what do you mean? People think you're old?
I'll be 63 in October.
Why would people think you're old? You don't look old.
I don't know. They think I have dentures too. I mean, so these are all my teeth. They're not dentures. I do have a little, lisp thing that I've had, all my life. But
Yeah, moderate.
other than that,
It's a moderate lisp, right?
I don't know what it is. God gave it to me and I took it. So
I don't
here
think
I
it's
am.
much of a lisp. I think it's just the way. In all honesty, I'm telling you, when I first heard you talk, I just thought you were from Michigan. I swear, I thought you were from Michigan, and that that was your accent. Maybe
No, I mean, traveled, lived most of my, of course, when I was younger, my dad being in the military, we traveled every 2 years. We moved up until when he was overseas, we would live in the Boston area with my family, my grandmother. My grandmother had an apartment in South Boston, and it's a high rise. It's 1410 Columbia Road, across from Carson Beach. And she was on the 6th floor there. And so we'd live with my grandmother when my dad was in Vietnam. And my mother was from Roxbury. My dad's from South Boston. And then, we would live in various places. I lived 2 years in Japan, in Yokohama. And then the other times were North Carolina, but the majority of it was Hawaii, in Kaneohe, in the Kailua area, where we lived.
and that's why you like pineapple so much, right?
Yeah, and when I was 7th grade, we moved to SoCal, and that's where I stayed.
Southern California, man, it's a world of its own these days. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's not like it used to be, is it?
Well, things have changed. Yeah, I mean, for sure, things have changed. And we got there in '75. My dad retired at Camp Pendleton, and we just stayed as a family. And then back then, 1975, my mother had terminal cancer. She had breast cancer, and she was operated on at Peterborough Brigham Women's Hospital in Boston. And so I went through that, as a kid, and all the other stuff like everybody else. We all have Gethsemanes. But
Yeah.
when my mom passed, my dad remarried and married a good gal from South Boston.
It's funny. I got to go to the library this week, and I was kind of looking into your genealogy because you for some reason have this, like, it's almost like Forrest Gump, where you have all these amazing things that have happened to you and your family ancestors, if you will. And I've always been really fascinated, and there's so many archives of you, but for some reason the third floor of the library was shut down this week for renovation.
Get out of here.
So I couldn't access. I had to go to the first floor because the second floor was full. So I had to go to the first
on the third. Like
all the good stuff is on the third floor. But I found something that was quite shocking, and it scared me a little. And I want to share it with everybody.
I can't. Here we go.
But so first floor library, third floor closed down for renovations, be back open next week. And this is what I found.
You know what? I love you. This is old school. This was your high school graduation photo, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure it was.
Prom. Right? If I remember correctly,
that was my prom and high school graduation. Yeah.
And you were going to culinary school shortly thereafter on this.
Yeah.
Right? Because I see you have your sushi knife. Right there.
Yeah, I did. Yep. I was really good with that thing. I actually have it up in my room. It's signed. It's signed by a couple famous chefs.
So
in Guy Fieri.
In Japanese, to say, I speak a little Japanese, it's Nihongo wa shabaru skoshi desu ne.
That's a little more than a little Japanese.
That's a little Japanese. And then you can say, like, oh, that tastes really good. You can say, oishii desu ne. Hai, so domo arigatou gozaimasu. So you can say, thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah. And this was it. I remember this photo. This is a great shot. Where did you find this one?
First floor of the library in the section of confused adolescents.
Well, and I noticed you have a shark tooth. Right, you caught that shark, right?
Shark. I did. Yeah. I did. One day I was surfing in Santa Cruz, and body surfing, matter of fact, and a great white came up on me.
Yes,
and
I remember.
He butted me with his nose, and I held on to that thing. And I remember I pulled it. The thing survived, but I told him, I said, "You don't let me go. I'm taking a tooth with me, and you're going down."
And I remember you talking to him.
Yeah, I did. And I said, I'm going back for my samurai sword. If you don't,
because he was holding your wetsuit, right? He kind of just gently grabbed your wetsuit.
Yeah, he ripped the hindquarters of it, and it was a long run back to the.
And that's where the tooth got lodged in your wetsuit, if I remember right.
Yeah. And I pulled it out, and story for the ages, man. I was.
Yeah, and who's the creeper in the background?
Looks like John Travolta.
Oh, that's John.
I think so.
John Travolta. Wow, man, he looks so much younger. He looks good in that picture.
Yeah,
You know, I used to love these high school photos, the backdrops, where, you know, they use your grandmother's curtains. They would have you bring them to school, and you would put those curtains up in the background right
Yeah.
from your house, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's-
exactly what I would do.
And the Travolta thing came from your bedroom wall, if I remember right.
Yeah. What happened was I was always watching Saturday Night Fever, and
Yes.
somehow summoned him through my man bun, and there he was, Mr. Travolta in the flesh.
You look good. You haven't changed.
Yes, that was a while back, but you know what? I'm happy that I was able to find something in the library. Usually it's you that I'm looking for. I couldn't get to there. I couldn't access it. It's a shame. Maybe next time. I guarantee next time, because they're renovating that place, and I bet there's going to be even more archives for me to go through. So
Absolutely. Grab the third floor and you will get it all.
absolutely.
It's
But
awesome.
I'll never forget when you called me Belushi, huh?
What are you serving up tonight? What do you got going?
I made meatloaf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you do Mary's burger?
I used the chips. Yeah, no, I haven't done her burger yet, but
I did the burger.
yeah, how'd that go?
Oh my goodness. It was off the hook.
Right.
Off the hook. Yeah. It was so good.
How, like, did you put the cheese in the Canadian bacon?
No, Karen went, let me do the bacon. The Colonel. I'm just a private. She's like, honey, please, can I do can I go out with the guys? No, not tonight, hon. Okay, can I have bacon? No. All right. Okay, good. Here. But she's awesome.
Plant life, baby.
Huh?
Plant life.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it tasted like. It was awesome. And it was those burgers from Costco. So did you know Costco used to be named Price Club?
No.
Yeah. So back when it started, it was originally called Price Club. And it was actually, I think the first one they opened was in Kearny Mesa in San Diego back in the early 70s. And then, it converted into Price Club. And it was owned by one guy. I don't know if it still is. And then, it converted into Costco. It was owned by one guy. I don't know if it still is, but
are you a big bulk buyer? Is that what you do?
Yeah, useless trivia. See, a lot of folks remember. Look at it. Ruth remembers.
Ruth remembers.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody here tonight.
I remember I know everybody's so awesome.
Josh, how's your grandmother? While I got you here for a sec, because I haven't had a chance to catch up.
My grandmother is well,
yeah,
and is ornery as ever.
Good.
She, her and Otis they're like best buds sometimes, and then every now and then he just decides. I don't know if I told you, but he peed on her bed just recently.
Oh, shots fired.
Yeah. And the thing, okay, so I'm wearing these noise canceling headphones, right? And she's in the very back of the house, and I'm wearing these noise canceling headphones. They're literally noise canceling. So if you go like this and snap next to your ear, you can't hear it. I hear this roar, almost like a T-Rex. It felt like the floor vibrated, but what the heck was that? And I pull it off, and you could hear, she's like, get out of here, get out of, and his ears are completely pinned back. He's running at me as fast as he can, hides behind me. And I go, what is going on? And she goes, he peed on my bed. She goes, he was sitting behind me. He didn't even lift his leg, because if he had lifted his leg, he'd have peed on me. But apparently, I don't know. That's the third time in a year that he's done that. So I don't know why he did it, but I'm just glad it wasn't my bed. But yeah. The thing was too, it was like, and then she just forgave him. It was like 10 minutes. We changed her sheets and stuff for her. And then, but oh man, it was like, I was like, dude, you got maybe one of those left in you, and then she's gonna snap. And but you should see him, man, when he comes running. He knows he messes up, pins his ears all the way back, and I think he does it to be aerodynamic. You know what I mean? Because he was like, and he's really fast for a
Cut the wind.
yeah, for a girthy little fella. You know, he's solid.
Should name him Airstream.
yeah. I should name him Fire Hose.
Yeah.
Golly.
Well,
But,
did he actually wet or did he mark?
You know,
Because the mark is a good thing, right? I mean, it's a bad thing in the house, but he's really just saying, "Hey, you're mine, and I just don't want anybody bothering you."
I really don't. I think it was a mark, but you know, he's fixed, so he's supposed to stop doing that stuff, and he hasn't done anything like that in a long time. But anyway, I laughed about it the next day, but I was just really glad that she didn't sacrifice him right then and there.
Yeah.
You know what she says, if I can't love him, I'm going to give him back to God. She used to tell me that stuff all the time. Golly. But they're buddies. She's great. She's doing well. Thank you for asking. She's really strong. She's a really strong lady, and I love her dearly. But yeah, she's doing great. So, you know, we got this new, I guess it's a new case. It just came out, you know, a couple days ago. We're just going to talk about it a little bit, but Kylie, how do you pronounce it? Kylie Rodney is missing and out of Placer County. The story is odd, to say the least, because of how many people were there. And, you know, we'll go through this a little bit and you can give me your thoughts on it, but here's what we know about the case missing 16-year-old Kylie Rodney in Truckee. And as of Tuesday night, the Placer County Sheriff's Office said there are 16 agencies now part of this investigation, including the FBI, Homeland Security. More than 100 volunteers are helping with the search efforts, along with 50 FBI agents who are focusing on priority leads. Kylie Rodney was last seen early Saturday morning at a party near the Presser family campground. Witnesses and law enforcement say there were anywhere from 200 to 300 teenagers and young adults in attendance. The Placer County Sheriff's Office said it is not interested in arresting or prosecuting any minors who were drinking or using drugs at the party. Instead, it wants to focus on getting Kylie home to her family. And I find that very interesting because as of now, not a lot of children have come forward. And I understand their hesitancy. And it is important to know that these kids, they're basically offering amnesty. They don't care. I mean, not that they don't care. They're not interested in hauling these kids off to jail. They just want answers. And from what I've heard, they have almost no leads still. How does something like that, 200 to 300 people, and nobody seems to know anything? Obviously, there's people that know. And with Snapchat and Instagram the way that it is, and YouTube, Facebook Live, whatever, there has to be obviously more evidence out there. But this is from the sheriff's office itself. We're sharing additional photos detectives have received that we believe may be beneficial to our investigation into Kylie's disappearance. This first photo depicts a hoodie Kylie was loaned on August 5th, the day before she went missing. We don't know whether Kylie was wearing that hoodie or when or we don't know if she was wearing that hoodie when she disappeared, but we believe that was still in her possession. The second photo is an actual depiction, and I have those photos on the next slide of Kylie's 2013 Honda CRV 8YUR127 California license plate from the winter. That's where the photo was taken, and you'll see snow in that photo. We continue to ask for the community's help to find Kylie and bring her home to her family, in addition to calling our tip line and emailing tips. We're adding a link where witnesses can submit any video or photos they believe are relevant to the investigation to locate Kylie and her vehicle. You upload your videos here, which is, so this is the last photo or the last images they believe that of this young lady, and it was on the 5th of August, about 6:08 p.m., 6 hours before she was last seen at the party, and that was the last time her phone pinged. And there's her car. This is kind of odd right here, Chris. And obviously I believe it's just coincidence, but Rodney was loaned a hoodie on August 5th, the day before she disappeared. The front of the hoodie is solid dark gray and has lyrics from artist Lana Del Rey that read, "You don't want to be forgotten, you just want to disappear." The back of the hoodie has flowers and says Lana Del Rey on the back. That's just creepy. But anyway, here's the campsite. So we got 200 to 300 kids. Her car has not been found. She's missing. The cops, investigators want kids to come forward, and it doesn't seem like that's happening right now. Say you're an investigator on this. What do you think is the way to kind of start this investigation?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to wrap your mind around there are potentially 4 crime scenes. The pre-incident behavior of the victim, and this is why a victimology would be critical in this. And when I say pre-incident, did she go to any stores? Did she get gas? Did she use her credit cards or her mom's credit cards? Anything like that. All of those pre-incident information, which you just saw a photograph showing that, okay, that's the kind of, first thing you want to wrap your mind around. So if you are the case agent on this, or whoever the lead is, the first thing you want to do as your team is you want to start making assignments. And there's usually a primary, a secondary, the CSI folks, and then, of course, all of your supporting folks like the FBI, Placer County Sheriff's, extra volunteers. And those, you're going to assign somebody from the Placer County Sheriff's Department to oversee the search and rescue, to oversee all of the witness interviews. And you as the case agent then now become a tennis player, for lack of a better analogy. And so the first situation that you have is you have obviously any pre-incident stuff. The second is you actually have the incident, i.e. where all the kids showed up for the party. So what were the pre-incident behaviors that took place that drew everybody to that party? And then what you want to do is cast a large net around, a lot of the forensic cell information that came into that party. How far out did it go?
Right.
Did it go to different places within the state? Did it come, did a bunch of high school students, celebrating their high school graduation? Well, was there predatory behavior that potentially came in as a result of that from outside cities? I mean, you're in Northern California there, not too far from the Bay Area, et cetera. I mean, that is it's a real tough area. And then the third that you have is the car. This is the key to this particular incident, in my opinion, right now. You find the car, you find additional evidence and potentially even Kylie once you identify where that vehicle is, because now you have data with inside of that car. You potentially could have evidence with inside of that car. So that's scene number 3. And then scene number 4 is where she is actually discovered if she's not in the vehicle. And so all of these things have to be considered immediately within the first 24 hours. And I guarantee you that's already been taken place. And that's why you have so many resources immediately, flushed into this.
Right.
And so, why don't kids come forward and start talking about it? That's anybody's guess. It's not unusual for teenagers to kind of hold back that certain information from parents or whatever. It's just interesting, immediately, and so the first place you want to start is with those 4 ideas in mind, and then now you have to do a really deep victimology. You have to, what is she like? Tell me about her. And then you have to measure that against the risk continuum. And in this particular case, because it's out in the woods, this is a high risk situation. Okay, so there's a higher probability that she was a target of opportunity, potentially, and so you have to immediately act within those parameters and make your move.
Yeah, and there is some chatter out there that she, none of this is confirmed, and I've just been checking on the wire there, but it says heard on a police scanner that a girl matching her description has been found.
Good.
And this is supposed to match her VIN number, but once again, nothing.
Did they find the vehicle?
Yeah, they said that. Well, according to this, that they found the vehicle and that she's supposedly inside of it, alive.
Perfect.
But nothing is confirmed yet.
Okay.
These are just initial reports, and like I said, I don't know. I don't know if this is, when you come on the air, this has happened once before. And I don't know. I don't know if she has been found. I hope that she has been found.
Well, do you have a minute to go over to Placer County Sheriff's Department, see if they put something up?
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, and if she's not, then the vehicle is key, which I just said a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
You find the car, and this reminds me of, Francis's son, Brian McKenzie. I told Francis, let's focus on the car. Let's find the Jeep. We find the Jeep, we find Brian.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, is that her vehicle wasn't found, and they thought that it was possibly an abduction. The scanner recording doesn't seem totally legit. It may very well be, but it feels very irresponsible. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I really couldn't tell you.
Well, I hope they found her if they did.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's what's going to happen, but yeah, I don't know. It was off broadcastify. It's very possible that she was found, and we'll keep you updated as we go. But as you see here, the department said it was still and is still considering all leads and possibilities. This could include an accident or the teen just ran away. So they're not even sure, that there was foul play involved, or maybe there was possible accident. Maybe she just ran off and hid. I mean, that's kind of a, I don't know.
Well,
I'm not somebody said you seem disappointed. I'm not disappointed. I would be disappointed if this is I've been in this position before. When these things break, sometimes it's just not true. So I'm hesitant. I'm very hesitant. I hope that she has been found, but I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I don't get involved until, the cops have done what they need to do. And, that's not for me anyway, in my channel, right? I mean, and yours, we try to be a little more responsible in relationship to, what's accurate and what's not accurate. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and like I said, but yeah, you never know. It could absolutely, it could be, obviously it could be true, and I'm very hopeful that it is true. But it's just one of those things when, the chat starts blowing up about it, and then the Twitter starts going nuts, Instagram, all these things. I just never. Yeah, I believe, and here says Fluzzy B says 31 minutes ago they said they're still looking for her.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part sometimes is this also draws out all of the sick puppies on the internet. Because what they do, they want to bait people. Okay? And what they don't realize is the only people who suffer are the parents. Okay? By saying, by creating these narratives that don't exist. And, I mean, you know how I feel about that. And, I mean, and I put an end to some of the stuff for me the other night. And, these perpetual things that you keep saying, it's really, it's not good, because you have the mother already feeling guilty, I bet, that, she's probably, and by the way, I've been so busy this week getting ready for next week, in meetings and doing other things for the training that's coming up. I haven't even had a chance to pay attention to this till you just showed me what's going on here.
But yeah, and somebody on Twitter, what's going on currently is somebody on Twitter has released what they believe is the police scanner, and it's screen recorded. But I'm not going to play it. I'm just not going to play it because I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's fake. There's nothing official on the Placer County Sheriff's Department's Facebook. But I don't know. The one thing that you don't want to do is jump all over it and say it's confirmed that she's found, until law enforcement says something.
That's right.
And I know I've heard, it to me, I've seen this before, Chris, you've seen this before. It's never easy because you want it to be true. And it's just, I know how these things happen. Remember when everybody thought Dawn was in jail? You remember that?
Yeah.
And it was confirmed 110%. Oh, it was confirmed. But was it though? Because it wasn't. There was a phone call there too. I mean, let's just I've seen no actual confirmation. I did see her boyfriend do an interview, or he claimed to be her boyfriend and a friend. And the problem is, I was a kid, and I went to parties and things like that, and bad things happen at these kind of parties, at these children, teenage parties. What I heard though was that older people started showing up. They started showing up, and they were kind of, getting involved with some of the younger kids. There was drugs, there's alcohol. 200 to 300 kids at a campground partying is never going to be a good idea or a good thing?
Well, it all depends if you're a teenager, right? If you're a teenager, that's a cool thing. I mean, everybody shows up for that reason, to meet people, to party, to do whatever they do. That's what kids do. It's not unusual. I mean, in California, I mean, everybody used to go to the beach back in the day. You get 300-400 kids on the beach, and then they would light bonfires, and kids would, back in that time, drink and smoke pot and do all the things that's now legal, except for the drinking. Okay.
Right.
And, it's like, okay, well, you come back to high school on Monday, and if you didn't go to the party, you were weird. Okay. And in this case, here you've got, a young girl who is told by her friends and others, and it catches wildfire. Hey, there's a party, for our graduation, or whatever the story is, or somebody's graduation, because if she's 16, she hasn't graduated high school.
No, she's still in high school.
So somebody's having a party out in the boondocks. Okay, so you're going to do your risk assessment as a kid. Well, my mom doesn't know, and I'm going to ask for an extension. Because I did just read that. I flipped over here and did a little reading here.
Mm-hmm.
She asked for a little more time out. Well, that's not unusual, right? For teenagers, and especially in today's world with technology the way it is. The technology trail in this is going to solve this case with the vehicle. You find the vehicle, you match the technology, and then you can also see, who's flown into that honeypot, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Every one of those phones that came into the middle of that circle that night, you can betcha that there was a bunch of stuff going on. She graduated early. Okay, so all right, so she got out early. That's good. They said she's a senior. Wonderful. Okay, so this was a graduation party for her, or for one 16-year-old, or for 299 others. So
I believe I'm looking here, and I'm hearing, and this isn't confirmed either, but that somebody said that Placer County has said that it's not true.
which part?
Her being found, and the scanner. But once again, we're still sifting through information here. It's just hard to know what's real and what's not. I'm trying to look at their Twitter here, and just that's how these kind of things happen.
Well, first of all, this is the summertime. Okay, so why are they having a graduation party in the summertime for the senior class?
It's not, but that's what I'm saying. It's just a party. That's what it is.
It's a party. I mean, it makes no sense that, hey, we're having a graduation party, for the class of, whatever it is, 2022. No, those kids are all in college. They're getting ready to go to school. They're packing up and they're headed off to their dorms this week. And so this is just a party to get drunk, and, to have fun. Hey, this is a party. I agree with you. I don't,
it's one of those things where, like, I've been to parties before, and, what they do is they tell their parents, it's something that it's not. And
yeah, now that makes more sense. It was a party for the kids going away to college.
So, okay, there you go. Into summer party. That does make sense.
Farewell party. That makes sense.
I'm looking here, and I just, I am not seeing any verifications, and I'm not breaking any news on this channel. That's not what I came on here to do.
Yeah.
It's not what I do. If something does become legitimate while we're here, we will share it. But as of now, there's nothing confirmed when it comes to Kylie Rodney being found. And the fact of the matter is she's still missing as far as I know.
Right. So people need to look for that car. That car is the key in this case right now. That is the most important piece of evidence in this case. No matter what people say, i.e. the other students, I saw this, I saw that. Well, that's nice. But look for that car. It's easier to find the car than it is to find a human being.
Right. Exactly. And with them not finding that as well, they were kind of hesitant to think that it was an abduction because they hadn't found the vehicle. Usually when somebody's abducted, like in Rose's case, obviously they find her car. That happens a lot. Jen Yu says, see Placer County Sheriff, they responded untrue. If somebody could get that to me, I would be happy to, to verify that. But yeah. And that's another thing. There was no Amber Alert issued. We've talked about Amber Alerts ad nauseum before. And it's they don't believe, at first they didn't believe it's an abduction, but now they're thinking that it could be an abduction. It's just the Amber Alerts are strange, to say the least. When you say, there's a very high threshold that needs to happen to have an Amber Alert. Is that something that in your mind should change? The criteria?
No, because if, let's say there's information that we don't know, that the authorities know. Now, for small children, really small children, 2, 3, 4, 5, Amber Alert 24/7, 365 immediately. Boom, press the button. And anything under actually 10, 11, if anything in the teenage years, if you hit an Amber Alert for every teenager, look what happens when you do put an Amber Alert out and 2 hours later, the kid calls and say, Mom, why are you doing this to me? Okay, I'm fine. Okay, well, where are you? Now, in this case, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, put it out into the public arena to say, look, we're looking for the car. We're looking for this little girl. And here's the information that we have to date. And by the way, we're not going to tell you everything, but we're going to keep you updated. Simultaneously, they're working with the various different, companies like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, all of those companies. That takes a lot of time to get those folks motivated to give you information, because the first thing they say is, well, we're not giving you anything until you give us a warrant. Okay, so now you have to establish exigent circumstances, i.e. this is an emergency. Okay, and you've got to convince the security director of all of these companies that it's an emergency to get into not only her phone, but other phones that you think, could be relevant to this investigation. And then, of course, any data that comes with the car, you got to get hold of Honda, and you got to convince them.
Chris, Placer Sheriff, the verified account, has confirmed that it is untrue that there are any new developments in this case.
There you go.
So once again, I want to tell you that what you are hearing from other channels, what you're hearing on the internet was not true, and it's not verified. And Placer Sheriff on Twitter, you can go look it up for yourself. That it says, heard on a police scanner that a girl matching Kylie Rodney has been found. Girl matching her description found alive in a car matching VIN. Somebody said, "Can you confirm or deny this is true?" They respond, "Untrue. Sorry."
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff
Please
that the
care.
21st century, and this is one of the things we talk about.
That's why I wasn't happy. Somebody said, "You seem disappointed." The reason I get disappointed is because of crap like that. I mean, it really bothers me.
I know. Hey, it is. It's Mishigosh, right? And then you address it, and then you're the bad guy. But that's okay, right? Well, people are going to do whatever they're going to do, and what you do correctly and what you do great is you stick to, the facts. You just stay with it, and the rest will go away. It always does. You can't blow out a light bulb.
Right.
And so, let people are going to say or do whatever they want to do. And,
like saying these other channels. I don't care who says it.
Yeah. Who cares?
I don't care who says it. That's why I would just never, come on and until there's an official press release from the department, I would never run with it. I would never say, I mean, whoever did that, because obviously somebody, is playing a game, should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Can you imagine being the parents and hearing something like that and then come to find out it's not true? Shame on those people. Shame on them.
Yeah.
And so I want to apologize to my audience, and we don't want any of that in here anymore. But I want to move on and talk about something that we can verify. Michigan State Police take over investigation into the disappearance of how do you pronounce that? Lenawee County woman Dee Warner. And now right there, that is fantastic news.
Yep.
That is fantastic news. And Chris, it is hard to say that you and Billy didn't have a little something to do with it, and not that you guys are looking for recognition or anything like that, but I am so glad that there is a development in this where local law enforcement, who may or may not have been too close to this, has absolutely surrendered their investigation to the Michigan State Police. Are your hopes now rejuvenated?
I'm optimistically cautious
that
all of the evidence that has been presented here, and by the way, Billy and I are gonna cover that probably this weekend, but there are some really interesting developments that have come up this week, and so we'll be talking about them.
Yeah, I mean, this was a story that I wouldn't say I struggled with, but I can be an emotional person. You mean, that, Chris?
We all can. Me too.
Oh, absolutely. And like the person that said, "Josh, you seem disappointed." Yeah, I was very disappointed because I just knew, I had this feeling, like you say, Chris, not my first rodeo. I've seen it. It is disappointing, but when something like this happens, when, with Dee, when there is a major movement, people were protesting. People were standing out in front of the courthouse trying to make a difference, and made a real, absolute difference in this case. And hopefully going forward, we can get some justice, because Dee did not run off at all. She just didn't run off. None of it is, his story is absolutely bunk. If you ask me.
Totally agree. You have, one thing to always remember, right? We used to have a saying is we don't get to choose our victims. Your phone rings 2, 3 in the morning or whatever time it was and is. These poor, victims, it didn't matter who they are, what they are, where they are. What mattered is they're not there. Maybe their physical, structure is there, but they're gone. They're deceased. Okay? And so when you have others, circling the wagons around them, i.e. potentially suspects and or, whoever, you have to step back and kind of compartmentalize yourself and look through a lens of, this is why I've talked about why victimology is so important. You have to understand the lens of the hunter. And you have to ask yourself, was this guy or gal, were they hunting or were they shopping? And were they shopping? This is where manslaughter, accidents and all this other stuff come in. And what I mean by that analogy is they really didn't plan it on, 100%. It just happened. Okay. It was a spontaneous situation. Anger, got involved and they lost their emotions and, it went down. Okay. Versus they went hunting. Hunters go to find prey. And, in those kind of circumstances, you have to step back and you say, okay, well, how do I think like the hunter, i.e., what did he or she see that I need to see? And in this case, Dee's case, clearly, you have a woman who, by all means, she keeps herself together. She's probably, liked or not liked by various people. Depends on what side of the coin you're on with her. Okay, she's volatile, admittedly. Okay?
Yeah,
but
if
she's
he
also
was my husband, I'd be volatile too.
right. But she's also sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she also helps, there's that other side of her personality. Okay. And so if you look at what the initial presentation of this case, her husband says, is she took her curling iron. Now, I don't know about you, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, now, let me get this right. Your wife, prepares herself. She takes care of herself for public presentation in her public persona. And you're saying that she left with her curling iron. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, where did she go with this curling iron? Well, she went to Mexico or Jamaica with the curling iron. Okay. I mean, right from the get-go, it was like, you got to be kidding me. And so then you have people calling who may not be, the most favorable in society in relationship to perception. Okay. But you don't get to choose your witnesses either. But sometimes, these witnesses who give massages to guys like, Todd, the other guy involved in this thing, she called the cops and said, hey, I've got cassette or audio tapes. And they laughed at her. Well, when she called Billy and I, we said, let's hear it. And lo and behold, the rest is history.
So they weren't even interested in talking with her.
No, they blew her off 100%.
Had you ever, would you have ever done anything like that?
No, I didn't do it. We didn't.
Yeah, you talked to everybody, right?
I just proved it.
Right.
We did not do it.
Right.
We said, what do you have? And next thing you know it, she shows up with all of these audio tapes. And Billy's like, okay, we're going to get more. When's your next appointment? And we gave her audio because it's a one-party state. And we gave her a recorder. And the rest is history. Now we have about 8 hours of conversation with Todd. Think about that.
8 hours.
What's in that 8 hours? We only played 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Right.
Hey,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot.
That's amazing. And you know, now there's the state has taken over the case. I'm
Yep.
very, very excited. Chris, there's a question here for you. Is victimology training something you have to mentally prepare for on a mental health perspective?
It all depends. No, if the victimology training, you know, it's just asking the right questions. The victimology is about the question and how you ask it. It's like a surgical tool. Now, there are, you know, some investigators, and this is, you know, I guess in our time and with the Cold Case Foundation, one of the reasons why, you know, we train is we train folks how to ask the correct questions, and those questions, you know, how to frame them based on the mental capacity of the individual you're interviewing. And so, you know, the forensic psychologists and all of those folks who are also, you know, typically on the team during high-profile murders, they'll measure you out pretty quickly on where to go and how to get there with suspects. That's why, you know, they're typically like Dr. Park Dietz. If you want to see one of the most amazing men, or Larry Blum, for an example, or you know, Dr. Simons, right? Larry, not only Blum, but Larry, who I had on my show recently. You know, he's in the prisons right now. I can't tell you where, but he's talking to serial offenders. But these guys like that, and many other women like that. And Mary Ellen O'Toole is a good example. She ran the behavior science unit. She's a doctor, and she's very famous, and she's just an amazing human being. Okay. So what we teach is the cognitive interviewing process and how important it is to frame that question so that it becomes a surgical tool of truth and you know, information that presents itself from the offender, if that person is the offender.
Yeah, and you know, I did a class not too long ago. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Of course. Go ahead.
You graciously invited me to a victimology class, and it was not only was it fascinating with the Cold Case Foundation, Greg Cooper, who, you know, you guys all did a fantastic job. One of the most amazing things, and this just goes for everybody, but one of the things that Greg said, and I forget the other man who was at the beginning, but they were talking about how important it is. Obviously, it's going to be hard to do this, to not hesitate when you are put in a bad situation with a bad person. But one thing that I found extremely fascinating is taking yourself out of those high risk situations.
Right.
That is such a proactive way. What Kylie Rodney was in was a high risk situation. High risk.
Right.
Bad things happen. What my grandpa used to say, nothing good after 2 a.m. happens. I'm sure people have heard that. I don't know what time this was, but obviously it's late. It you know, there's not a lot of supervision. It is a high risk situation. And the like I said, the proactiveness is, you know, you don't want to go walk down an alley where there's a bunch of drug addicts at 3 a.m. that are, camped out by yourself with a pocket full of money. You just don't want to do it. And so understanding those high risk situations and avoiding them is absolutely key. And I just wanted to say you guys put on a fantastic class.
Well, there's a lot of smart people, and I come from the practical aspect of it, right? I mean, I had an opportunity to be under the tutelage of very many, different people. I'm not a criminal or a criminal profiler. That's not my role. Okay? My role has been as a homicide, investigator and a behavioral analyst. Okay, and my training was all in that arena and what's called CIA, criminal investigative analyst. Okay, and so the emphasis obviously on children. Okay, my actual training from what they called it when I was chosen back in the day, and it wasn't by choice, by the way. I was told by the department, guess where you're going? And at the time we had 6 kids or 7 kids in San Diego County. We had just finished up, or they were getting close to the end of the the San Diego Homicide Task Force. There were 43 different prostitutes that were body dumps off the Interstate 8 and Interstate 10, coming into San Diego. Most of them off the 8, who ended up being a guy by the name of Porter. You can look him up. And his sister, which at the time folks did not know, was on our department. And he was using her van in some of the cases. And I'm not going to mention her name, but so we kind of got thrust into that, kind of on a side angle. And 2 of the girls that, or were discovered, one of them, her name was Valisa Ray Joy. I was the last person to talk to her on the street. And it led into a whole bunch of other stuff. And long story short, the question was, had the suspect changed his victimology? And so I got selected to learn about, it was criminal behavior analysis in relationship to pedophilia during the course of homicide, i.e. through sexual deviant behavior. So guys who killed children for sexual gratification was my expertise, and still is. I mean, I train, I still do different things. So, and that's, that's the bottom line. And that's why when I get involved in these kind of cases, I see it from a different lens. And whenever there are children involved, like this young lady here, immediately that risk continuum comes to the top of the play. Same with Michael Vaughn. Why is this little boy missing over a year now? Okay. And little Mikey, what risk level was he at in relationship to that? And I really have not, dove into that case other than talking to Brandy and the parents behind the scenes and the cops. I've talked to I've talked to the investigators.
Yep.
And so on many times, behind the scenes, that's where I stay. And it's at a different level. I think you experienced it attending the victimology class. It was a lot different than YouTube, wasn't it?
It was incredibly structured and informative and made sense. So yes.
Yeah. And so where we're at now, next week we're going into, teaching through, still as part of Operation Lady Justice. I heard that somebody said it had been disbanded. I was like, okay, well, man, I'm going to have a lonely week then, because we've already got a classroom booked.
I was just on that website looking at all the missing children, and there were, what did we count? 90 something?
94.
Well, if they disbanded that, then we got a real problem.
Yeah. And there's over 1,500 Indigenous women missing and or, murdered. And that's just in the U.S. And those are estimates, over 5,000 in Canada. And President Biden just threw a lot more money at this initiative. And what's so cool about it, for the first time in history, it is Native American investigators investigating Native American crime. First time ever where the tribal police are working with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they're all from different tribes, but they're all working together to solve these problems. And they're having great success. Great success. I can't talk about a lot of it, but next week you'll see. I'll put some stuff out, and I may even go live over there. I got to talk to some people, but we may even go live right from the classroom with some folks. But we'll see how that's going to go. I've talked to Coop and others, and the task force commander is he needs to sign off on it. But
Right.
For the first time, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. And this week we're talking about cognitive interviewing. And I'm not going to go into the details on that and what that means, but it is really cool to see these men and women, from all of these amazing tribes, from this, in this great country, and to see and to listen to them, say, this happened in our area, this happened in our area. A long time ago, there were all these barriers, between various, subgroups, and they're breaking those barriers down, and they're communicating because they realize, the importance of it. So it's been a blessing.
Chris, you're one of the people. You are beloved with your channel. There's, like I said, there's more people that love you than don't. But there's like a couple people out there, Chris. You could say that the sky is blue, and they say no, it's not. It's orange.
Yeah.
And like who cares? The internet has given everybody a voice, whether they deserve it or not. And I'm really glad.
I am, and I hope Brad put some of that to sleep the other night. Just, can we talk about that? Do you mind?
Please, I would love to. Yeah, what a fantastic show. And if there was ever any doubt, I have looked at the Tuitt case and the Crowe case, and by the way, they're intertwined, like they just are. This is the same. And I want to say this one more time because I still see some people in chat. The sighting is also false. The sheriff's department also said that the sighting of this young lady outside of a gated community is not true as well. So just put that to that as well. Yeah. How, like, when he was talking about Richard Tuitt going into that home, it was impossible. There's a guy that talks to himself and lives in a dumpster.
They took him out of a dumpster
when they found him. Yeah. But like, what I'm saying is, like, how could that man break into a house, commit that crime? It's nonsensical. It makes no sense.
Well, and what was sad about that back in the day, right? Yeah, I mean, you have people still on the internet who cover that case now, right? And mention me. Okay? And they're like, well, Mcdonough is such a bad guy. He arrested those boys and they went to prison.
That was a lie. That's a lie.
Well, it's just not true. Yeah. I mean, it's not factually true. Number one, Mcdonough was in bed, okay, sleeping. Okay. And when Michael Crowe was being interviewed in juvenile hall by Ralph Clader and Mark Risley. Mark Risley looks like me. At the time I had, my hair, I parted it down the middle, kind of like, everybody else did in the 70s. And I kept my hairstyle into the 90s. But long story short, that those are the kind of things where you have the guy who represented, Richard Tuitt come up and go, no, you weren't there. And people they still don't believe it. It's like, no, you. And so it's like, you just learn to say, you're never going to convince everybody of what the truth is. But if you tell a lie long enough, people believe it's the truth.
Well, the thing about it is, so you were involved, you were named in a lawsuit. The judge threw the lawsuit out. They went and found another judge. Another judge put you back in the lawsuit. But here's what you did. You gave the test. You talked to him. What happened before that and after that, the actual, and when I say the interrogation, I mean, you gave him at the time, like the polygraph. It was I can't remember the name of it.
CVSA.
Yeah. So you did that. You went over the questions with him. You said, this is what it's showing. This is what it's showing. You get up, leave the room, and then two guys come back in. One happened to kind of look like you because you can't see the face, sit there. And I mean, yeah. Did they give it to him pretty good? Of course. He's not just going to say I did it, but you weren't even in there when that happened. So I don't understand how people can just flat out lie about it. It wasn't any, and if you look at the lawsuit as well, I don't know how many names were in that lawsuit, but it was a lot. I mean, it was just a net lawsuit, and where they basically said, "Well, let's just get this one over with. We're done with it. We don't want." But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't understand how you got stuck with that. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's ignorance is what it is. And here's the good news. Okay. I know what the truth is. It is, and God knows what the truth is. It is what it is. And what other people say, I cannot, argue with. And I don't lose any sleep over it because I mean this, because when we talk about Richard Tuitt, I was the guy that at the time it was a political move going on. There was Paul Finks running. He was the incumbent for DA, and he was running against a judge by the name of Bonnie DeMonis. And Bonnie DeMonis said, if you elect me as the DA, I will take the Crowe case on, and I will prosecute Richard Tuitt. Okay. Well, Paul wouldn't do that because he wanted to establish how this blood got on the shirt of this transient. Okay. And which, by the way, was later established. Okay. And he was found not guilty, which if you want to see that, go over and watch it, because his attorney was on my show the last Sunday, Brad. And so what happened was the moment she got elected, she punted the case to the AG's office in Sacramento. Instead of taking the case on like she promised, she passed it on to the AG's office. And then the sheriff's department took over. Okay. And that guy, Kaluka, had tunnel vision. And I've never been interviewed by him, and none of us have. While simultaneously there was all this other civil action going place. Look up the name Sagan Penn if you want to know who the attorney was. Sagan Penn, San Diego.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah, it's bad.
It is bad.
Yeah, and that guy drove over an officer's body after shooting a ride-along, and this civil attorney got him $3 million. So just before Tuitt's trial, the city attorney came to me and said, hey, the insurance company is going to settle on this case. And I said, for what? They said, well, you didn't do anything wrong, but it's cheaper for us than to fight it just in case. So I was stuck in a no-win situation. I work for the city. I was told to sign. I signed the papers. Okay. And then they settled. Well, guess what happened? Lo and behold, when Tuitt was found not guilty, that case had already been settled and they're off into the sunset. Mm-hmm. Okay. And even Brad said the other night, he says, yeah, that was a smart move. by the civil attorneys. It had nothing to do with me. Had everything to do with, the insurance. What was cheaper for the municipalities, for the city, for the county, for everybody involved.
But what's crazy about it is they literally make it seem like you beat the kids up.
I wasn't there.
I understand, Chris. I get it. But that, first of all, none of that happened. And if you think that their interrogation went overboard, you can feel that way. But they're talking to the wrong guy.
Well, here's the question. There is no statute of limitations. And by the way, even though Brad said the other night they can't be refiled on, that's not 100% there, because the reason why he didn't have standing is because he's not the DA. The only way that case could ever come back again is if Summer Stephan is not elected DA in San Diego again, and a new DA steps in who appeals that standing. And then guess what? If the court overrules and says, yes, you have standing and you can take this back to trial, here's something that the public needs to think about. Those 3 boys could go on trial for murdering Stephanio Crowe. Now, if that ever happened in my lifetime, I don't know. If Summer Stephan loses at the district attorney's office, and the reason why there's a conflict of interest there is because she was the DA on the case. So she would have to recruit, step away. Okay? But the law in California allows the district attorney to take this case back, even though there was a finding of factual innocence. Factual innocence means, that you're not factually innocent of the crime. It means the district attorney will not file against you,
right? Because
the case has been dismissed without prejudice,
right? And that there's a difference, obviously, and the language is weird.
It could still happen. It really could.
Well, look. So here's the thing. The way that I understand the story is that, and by the way, I understand people want to talk about coerced confessions and false confessions. There's a difference, okay? A coerced confession is not a false confession.
Correct.
A false confession is a false confession. There's a major difference there. Detectives use certain tools that they have, and they have to follow certain rules. Criminals can just lie to you over and over and over. And sometimes leverage is needed. Most people who commit the crime, especially heinous ones, are not going to tell you, just come out and flat out say it. It doesn't, I mean, you got to have a little conversation. You got to kind of doubt their story. And that's how that works. The problem with that is when I hear, these coerced confessions, there's too much detail in their confessions to be coerced. There's too much, that they know too much about the crimes for it to be coerced. And the fact of the matter is, Michael Crowe said to his friends, Joshua Treadway said this. He said he wanted to kill his sister. Aaron Hauser said, if you're serious, I'm in. There was 2 knives found under Joshua Treadway's bed, and kill was written on the inside of her, in the inside window seal.
Of
Who
Stephanie's room.
What's that?
Of the victim's room.
Of the victim's room. Who says to their friends that they want to kill their sister, and then the sister, within a matter of, I think it was either a day or 2, ends up dead. Not only that, the boy wrote about his sister dying, being killed. He did not like her. He didn't want her around. They hated each other. And his own father asked him, did you have anything to do with this? And he said, I don't know. I mean, come on.
All on video.
How do you get that many confessions? How does somebody, I mean, you really, really cannot. And I repeat this. That's not a coerced confession. I mean, these things went on. The confessions went on for a very long time. A long time.
The court ruled, and rightfully so. The court ruled when, so Michael was being interviewed by Ralph Clader, who was the Escondido lead detective. And by the way, again, so that everybody understands, what the truth is, right? I was just the CVSA examiner. I was the polygrapher. I was the guy that called out in the middle of the night to go find out, if people were telling the truth in relationship to what the machine said. Right? It wasn't even my case. I was working my own murders in my own city. Okay? And when I was done, I wrote him a report, handed it to him, and said, good night. Have a good night. See you later. And I left. And the boys were there with Escondido, and they made all the decisions to arrest them, to do whatever they did. I didn't do any of that. I wasn't even there. Okay. So, but in this part of the story, though, and this is why I crack up, to be honest with you. I mean, people still come into my chat, you arrested those three. Okay. You must be the sharpest tool in the shed. Thanks for visiting, goodbye. And I boot them from my channel because if they're that ignorant, they don't need to be on my channel. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. I've listened to those people, for 24 years. Have a great day. Get to know the facts before you open your mouth and insert your foot. That's the largest piece of the puzzle for some people sometimes. But the court rightfully answered. So Ralph gave him, some promises that he would talk to the district attorney on his behalf as a young man. Okay,
that's a problem.
Well, the court said, no, not good. That's coercive in nature for promises of leniency. Go read, right? And when people go read that ruling, that was the coercion, okay, for promises of leniency, i.e. you tell me I'll give you a better deal. Well, that's a no-no, okay? That's a no-no. Had nothing to do with, browbeating somebody. Okay? It had everything to do with, that's not the right thing to say when you're in the interview room. And, I agreed with the court personally, because I didn't say it, number one, and I wasn't there, number two. And on that piece of the puzzle, there were other pieces that I was there, but not that one. And I didn't even know they had interviewed the kid for hours and hours before I even got there, And so, those are the kind of things that I was so grateful that, when the DA asked me, and it was Paul Finks, who's a great defense. He's an attorney in San Diego still to this day, an amazing human being. He's a good guy. And he was like, you know what? I'm not going to file on Richard Tuitt. I'm not going to do that right now. We have to establish what happened here. Okay? And to his credit, he knew that Richard Tuitt, it would be an uphill battle to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that was the killer, that he was the killer. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't. So what happens? He loses the election. And next thing you know, Richard Tuitt is a political pawn, in my opinion, in San Diego County. They've written books about him. They've done movies about the case. They've discredited, they've tore him up, his family name and everything. And, it comes with the territory in my job back in the day. Okay. But now that I'm a civilian, no, it doesn't work that way. You start slandering me, trust me, I'll line you up. It will take a little bit, but I'm patient. Mm-hmm. And I keep tabs and track of everything that rolls in with my good name. Because that's how, that's all I have. Okay? That's all I have is my reputation and my character. You start losing those two things in the public arena, trust me, I'll slap you pretty quickly. It may take you may not see it coming, but it will be coming. And, just ask Billy. Billy knows me like a book. Okay. And Billy's probably one of the best defense attorneys in the country. And
Oh,
he's told me a half dozen times, you want me to slap him? No, not yet. We'll let stupid keep being stupid. And this is one of the reasons why I used to love walking into an interview room with a book that thick. Because I'd walk in and I'd drop it on the table with a suspect who thought I fell off a turnip truck the first day he met me. Okay? And he just sits there. And I say, you know what, you want some water? I'll be right back. And I'd leave the room and I'd go to the monitoring room. And the first thing these guys do is they lift up the book to see what's in there. And they start thumbing through the pages. And then I come back through the book, or I come back through the door and sit down right across from him, put my hand on his knee and say, hey, just out of curiosity, as you can tell, I've been doing a lot of work here. Yeah. And then I would say this, there's many times I'm on the record and defense attorneys hated it. I used to say to him, and even Brad, I was on the stand with Brad many times on the other side, and we're good friends, as you can tell. I'd lean over to him and say, hey, just out of curiosity, do you see stupid in neon lights anywhere on my forehead? That's how I would start the conversation. And the guy would lean back, and I had one kid who stuck a shotgun in a guy's mouth and blew his brains out. And for months and months and months, the guy was like, I didn't do anything, but I had a book when I was done. And that's the first question I asked him. I said, just out of curiosity before we start, do you see stupid anywhere on my forehead and neon lights? And he looked back and he laughed and goes, no. I said, gotcha. You want to tell me why you stuck the shotgun in the guy's mouth? And later on, we called it going for the snot. Okay, when they start crying so bad, the snot starts coming out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And you put your hand on their knee, and you say, and this is what I said to him. I said, just out of curiosity, what did it feel like? And he looks up at me and he's crying and he goes, Detective Mcdonough, it was horrible. I said, and now the compassion side kicks in because now it was over. And I said to him, you're not a bad guy. You did a bad thing. And I can't change that, and I can't help that. The only thing you can do is give back the truth to the family. That's it. That's all you can do. And guess what? Full confession, 100%.
Man, that seems coarse to me, Chris. No, I'm just kidding. It's just ridiculous. It's the whole thing. It bothers me because the answers are there, and there's a movement now where it's like people who suspects or perpetrators are treated better than the victims themselves. The dead, they're treated better than the dead. And it has always bothered me that the one person that in the whole mishigosh, to use one of your terms, I've never said that in my entire life until now, which means we're spending too much time together, is Stephanie. She was a 12-year-old girl, and
she deserves justice.
She does, and she was brutally murdered. And by all accounts, it seems like she tried to crawl off of her bed and get away or whatever. And it's, oh, those poor boys. What do you mean the ones that were hiding knives under their beds and writing fantasies about killing their sister? Those poor boys? I mean, just because they're teenagers doesn't mean that they're not capable of doing horrendous things. It's happened since time immemorial. Cain and Abel. A brother killing a sister killing a brother. Well, mostly is not something that's new. It happens. And at young ages too. Young people can kill. And just because they start crying in an interrogation room means nothing. It means nothing. When they're faced with the consequences of their actions, such as murder, grown men cry. It happens. When they start to feel like their life is slipping away and they're not getting away with what they want to get away with, they cry. I fully believe that Richard Tuitt was nothing more than a scapegoat to try and get some kids off. And when I say kids, you know, you guys really need to read the book, Who Killed Stephanio Crowe, and it talks about this stuff ad nauseum. I mean, ad nauseum.
Dr. Paul Tracy wrote that book.
Dr. Paul Tracy. The details are horrific. Aaron Hauser was a scary human. Michael Crowe had zero remorse. He was, a matter of fact, when he started confessing, he was delighted. He was convinced that he was prison the rest of his life, but you know, whatever. You know, he didn't like her. He said that many times. And there was and if you look at the cross-contamination theory, which is completely, we're talking about one, I don't remember the man's name, maybe you do, but
George Durgan.
George Durgan. This man testifies in court. Absolutely, that could have happened.
Right.
Absolutely, that's what it would look like.
Well, it's been proven that it did happen. Richard Tuitt was found not guilty, innocence.
There you go. Oh no, it's proven that Richard Tuitt did not kill Stephanie.
Correct.
He didn't do it.
100%.
And there's no other suspects, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering.
That locked the doors behind them. Every door and window secured in that residence except for a small door in the parents' room.
And Michael says that he went to the bathroom around 4 a.m, and there she is laying half in, half out of her bedroom door
With her door open, half of her body's in the hallway.
He had to step over her to go to the bathroom.
And there's blood found in his room.
And apparently Joshua Treadway was coerced into saying that he was watching Michael rinse the blood off the knife in the sink. The reason they say, well, you know, how come nothing was on that? They had plenty of time.
Actually, Josh's statement came in as completely 100% factual.
Mm-hmm.
And if he took the stand, it would be used.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's another fallacy here, that people think all three statements were, you know, thrown out of court. No, they weren't. In fact, that's why Mary Ellen Attridge was so adamant to take this to the public arena. And I don't know if you've ever saw the 48-hour piece where she's in the studio in the Rick Roberts show, and I called in and I said, you know what you're saying is not true. Who's defending Richard Tuitt here? I mean, our job, not only as attorneys, but our job as law enforcement and civil servants, is to be down the middle. That's our job. That's our responsibility. That's the oath that we took to the Constitution of the United States. Okay? And when you lose that perspective, then you get into a society that has no rules. When law enforcement loses that perspective, okay, and when the court system loses that perspective, and I think it's going to be one heck of a run in the next 10, 15 years, folks. This is just my 2 cents, and it's probably not worth the nickel. Okay, but if you think about, and I use this analogy all the time, there's a broken yellow line in the middle of the street for a reason. And where did that line come from? Well, it came from Model Ts crashing into each other back in the day when cars first started showing up on the road. And somebody had the bright ideas when they put pavement down that says, Do you think we should put a line in the middle? Well, why is that? Okay. Well, to prevent cars from crashing into each other. Well, that line represents the law in this country. That broken yellow line, whether we like it or not, it keeps people, gives them the ability to pass one another and wave while they're going by each other. Okay? When you erase that line, i.e. the law, you erase it and two cars collide. Who's at fault? Who's at fault is the question. Right? Well, in our society, if we continue to erase those lines to, a sense of what's right and what's wrong, then this is how things happen in the world that create chaos. And we, spiral down, and then we start hating our friends. We start hating our neighbors because we have different opinions. I've worked hundreds of murders because people had different opinions. Because they have different opinions. Think about that. They shot each other. I had a kid named Quilly Harvey. You can look him up. He did 25 years. He walked up to a father of 3 playing baseball with his children in a baseball field at a park. It was John Landis Park. And he walked up to this guy from the dugout, came out of the dugout. The dad was throwing the ball up and hitting the ball to his kids. And he walked up behind him, put a gun to the back of his head, and executed him in front of his children. I had the kid in the interview room, and I asked him, why did you do that? You know what his answer was? I didn't like the color of his hat because he was wearing a red hat, and Quilly was a Crip, all blue. Didn't even know this guy. That's the erasing of the law when you have people, when you have people who will go to the extreme because they don't like the way you talk, they don't like the way you think, they don't like the way you look, I can't tell you how many transgender, bodies I've stood over because they didn't like that person. And guess what? We are circling those types of problems in a massive way in this country, I think, right now. And we need to get back to, being civilized. We need to get back to treating the elderly, with respect, holding doors, for old men, old women when they come in behind us. And we need to do these kind of things that, we treat each other with respect. And this idea of, well, if you don't like the way I do it, then you're wrong. Well, guess what? What's different than saying I didn't like his red hat? Because that's how violence starts. And I think we're better than that as a society and as friends, even here on YouTube. Folks on YouTube, are constantly tearing each other apart. It's like, don't you have other things to do? Please, treat each other a little bit better and things will get better. That's how it works. And, I'm good with it because I'm used to it. And I have a positive mental attitude, right? I just, that's how I function. And so I don't let that stuff bother me. And,
I don't remember what was happening or anything. And even if I did, it wouldn't matter. I remember I was checking in on you once about something. Just asked you if you were okay. What friends do.
Sure, of course. And
your response to me, it stuck with me. And you said, of course, I'm with my family. What's better than that? Yeah. And, that stuck with me because those kind of things do actually matter. I can't remember. People were giving you crap about something probably probably Crow related.
I'm a lightning rod, Josh.
Probably Crow related. And I was just like, are you? And you're like, yeah, I'm great. And so, you know, the positivity that you displayed was just, it is contagious. And, you know, you're just, you don't deserve a lot. Look, if people don't like you because they think you're a jerk,
I'm okay with that.
that's your problem. You know what I mean? Like,
Here's the harsh part on that, though, right? You're forgiven. I don't, you know, I'm just dirt. I'm organized matter according to what the scriptures say. I'm just organized matter, just dirt.
from dust you came and dust you shall return, right, Chris?
Yeah, my dad used to say, and my dad, as you know, fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And my dad used to say, you know, he'd say, son, are you having a good day? And I said, Dad, I'm having a great day. I said, how about you? He said, I'm having an amazing day. They're not shooting at me. He said, do me a favor. I said, what's that, Dad? He said, be positive, make a difference, and do the best that you can. And if they don't like that, that's okay. You be who you are because God knows your heart and he understands who you are from the inside out. That was my father who used to tell me that as a kid. And I shared with you that he used to have me clean the shed every Saturday.
Yeah.
And move bricks. He had a big pile of bricks. And he'd say, you know, he'd come out and he'd go, wow, what a great job, son. I'd like, you know, okay, Dad. And he goes, you got to move the bricks. I'm like, oh, crap. Why am I moving these bricks? And I didn't realize it later on in life. And it was only like, I think there were like 10 of them. It was a small amount. But every weekend, I moved those doggone bricks before I could go out and play on a Saturday. I had to move them from one spot. He would point it out and say, oh, they need to be over there this weekend. And I'd move those bricks. You know what that taught me? Persistence. Don't quit, no matter what. Okay? No matter what. And treat people with respect, and people will respect you, and vice versa. Give it back both ways around. And I think we need more of that, in not only in law enforcement. I think we need it in law enforcement too. I really do. One of the things I try to preach in the class is we've lost this art right here. What we're doing, we're talking, we're just chatting.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lost art. Okay? We're you know, these poor kids nowadays. Look at some of these you know, these tics that are coming up from TikTok. I mean, they're psychological disorders for these young teenage girls. The science is now coming to the play that's saying, you know, these kids are coming up and they're, you know, doing all this stuff. Okay. And it's a real problem, you know, for these poor moms and dads and the children themselves, because they can't communicate. And the further we get away from this, you know, it's sad. But the good news is the sun's going to come up tomorrow and we can make a difference today. One person can make a difference. And each of us is that one person that we can each make a difference in. You've made a difference in your sister's life, in your grandmother's life, and even your dad's life, believe it or not. I would submit that to you. Okay. From all the horror that you witnessed as a child and where you are today. Okay. You have made a huge difference. You've made a difference in my life. I mean, you've come from a different perspective, you know, just talking to you. It's like, okay, well, you know, he's a little bit younger, not much. And, you know, he does look like John Belushi, you know, with the flow going. But, you know, you helped me think about a little bit more of, you know, okay, well, what can I do? What am I doing wrong, and how can I make it better? Or, you know, do I need to fix things, right? So, you know, good for you. And you know, you learn that value system from your grandfather and your grandmother that gave you the ability to go sit in front of that parole board with your father. But what did I ask you? I said, do you ever want to go visit him? Remember?
Yeah.
And I said, I'd go with you, didn't I?
Yep.
Yeah. I'd love to meet your dad.
I mean, that's something that that we should still do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things that I think about it this way. What he did that one moment, it forever. I look at it as you take a pebble and you throw it into a very calm pond, and the ripple effects you can just see. You know, at first they're very big, and then it gets, you know, as it expands and time goes on, the ripples are still there. They're just lighter and lighter and lighter. I got a letter from the parole board just the other day saying that they were considering moving up his parole hearing through a new penal code in California. And last summer I went to his parole hearing, and I don't know when his next one will be, but we're talking, this is 30 something years later. Okay. And I'm still getting letters from the corrections office addressed to me with my father's name on it, with his little E808 da 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 da. That's him. Okay. I recognize his number. And here we go again, you know? And so it's become a part of my life, not one that I necessarily enjoy, but it's a cross that I bear for my mother, and in her memory and out of respect for her, I keep fighting to keep him where I think that he belongs.
Right.
And I've heard, you know, many people have said to me, he's your father. You should forgive him. And I've said this before many times. There are things in life that people do that are unforgivable. And if somehow you happen to be in that situation that I am in, and I'm not in the situation that you are in, and you want to forgive somebody, that's fine. But there are things that are unforgivable, and it's not that I haven't forgiven. It's that I'm not done with this. Mm-hmm. It's not over. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it will never be over until he is not here anymore. Okay. Because I feel that justice hadn't been served. You know, I hear, you know, he gets a TV and gets to play on softball teams and all that cool stuff, man. Commissary, friends. My mother was buried in a cemetery in 1988. She's been there since 88. Okay. It doesn't seem very fair. And not only did he kill my mother, he also tried to murder my aunt at the same time. And luckily he had a handgun, or God knows what else he would have done. Now I've made my peace. I've done everything that I feel I need to do. I've spoken with him on several occasions, and then decided, you know, I'm done communicating with him. My sister has had zero contact with my father. Zero. She won't talk to him. Rightfully so. Okay. And there was a time when I said, you know what, Suzanne, I think that you should talk to him. It might help you. And she said, what helps you helps you. It's not going to help me, Josh. And she said, I remember, and this was tragic when she said this to me, and I never bothered her about it again. She says, I remember more than you do. And I said, I know. And she said, I've seen all I need to see, and I've heard all I need to hear. And I never, ever, ever bothered her about it again. She made it very clear. And I felt bad even saying, oh, you know, this might help you. This might. What helps you helps you. What helps me helps me. And that is just something that is just something that I will forever remember. You know, Chris, you've suffered a great deal of tragedy in your life as well. What helps you helps you.
Right.
And it's like I said, I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, you know, like, guess what happened to me 30 years ago? Or yeah, that's not how I go about my life. And it's also not really, it doesn't really define me. And I say this in all honesty, luckily I was young enough to where my mind wasn't completely overtaken by the situation. And then I was really blessed with a family that took us in and took good care of us. So it's just, you know, everybody's got a different story. Everybody has a different feel for life, you know, and we all walk different paths. You know, I'm sometimes with my kids when they say, oh, this bothered me, or that bothered me, or you said this to me, and I, you know, a lot of the times I would just go, whatever, get over it. And then I'm going, well, that's not really fair to say, because they're not me. I'm not them. We weren't formed from the same situations. They feel different about stuff. And just because I sometimes take a more hardened approach where, you know, you kind of like you sometimes, well, whatever, you get over it. That's not necessarily how life works always for everybody. There's a lot of things that I just had to get over or not. And if I didn't, it would have completely ruined my life. Completely. I have a cousin who was there the day of the shooting. His mother was shot. She survived. She was never the same. Never. After she got shot, she got into drugs and alcohol, and she dabbled a bit before. And then after she survived, it was full blown. And this is the same lady that we would all sleep in the apartment building in the middle of the room, like a hurricane was coming, because we were scared that my dad was on his way, and she'd sleep with the biggest knife that she could find. And we'd all share a blanket, sleep on the floor. Okay. And they were scared for good reason. Her life, even though she survived, was ruined that day. And when we were at the parole board and we were talking, she said something to him that was just unbelievable. What she said to him was, I never did anything to you but be nice. Why did you do that? And obviously he's not allowed to respond. And I remember just kind of looking over at her going, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I told the parole board that day, I said, look, my aunt survived. And I looked at her and I said, and this is nothing against you, I love you with all my heart. She has never been the same since. You have to realize that just because she's alive doesn't mean she completely survived what happened, because she didn't. She didn't. She's completely clean and all that now, you know, but you know, I mean, she was shot right through her lung and she only has half a lung on, you know, the whole thing was just tragic. But there was my cousin, her son, has never talked about it. He will not talk about it. He developed an alcohol problem at a young age, and then a drug problem. He's currently in jail for, I believe, DUIs. And it's a great sadness in my life that he never recovered from it either. And neither did I fully. I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible to fully come back from something like that. But I was bound and determined. And luckily, I had children at an age where I said, you know what? I better get it together because I'm not going to ruin their lives the same way. And I'm just not going I'm not going to ruin their lives. So I was blessed with a purpose at a very young age. And I couldn't be more proud of my children. And it is just one of the things, like you said, Chris, we all have a story.
Listen to what you just said, right? Your success is not measured by your children. Your success will be measured by your grandchildren. How your children treat their children is the measure of your success. And what I just heard you say is you had an epiphany. Okay. And by the way, I appreciate you sharing that. It's pretty noble of you, quite frankly. And this is another reason why I like you a lot, as a friend, that we become good friends.
Yes.
I love the book, and I hope you've bought it, is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And for your listeners, if you haven't ever heard of that book, folks, please go take a look at it. It's about what they call logotherapy. And Viktor Frankl, just kind of jumping right to the point here real fast, tying into your story, Josh. He was a survivor of the concentration camps, Auschwitz being the primary one. But he had an experience in the camps, one of them that has always stuck with me in that book. And it was about an elderly woman who was on the closest to the edge of the Quonset hut on these railroad ties. As you know, those poor people suffered just unbelievably comprehensible. I mean, I can't even comprehend it.
Yeah, me neither.
But she had a little hole in this Quonset hut. And he said, the hardest day of my life was when I had to remove her after she had passed. But he tells a story that the winter came the year, the months before she passed away. And she would always just stare out this little pinhole in this Quonset hut. And then one day in the spring, as Victor was coming through the hut, she goes, Victor. And he looks and he goes, yes. And she goes, look, come, see, quick. Something to that effect. And he says, what is it? And she goes, look. And he looks through this little peephole, and in the distance is a single tree. And the branches, there was a single leaf. And she turns to him with tears flowing down her face, and she goes, he's back. Now, the magnitude of that story is so powerful that Viktor Frankl, it's called The Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. The power of that story, Dr. Frankl talks about, they could take everything away from me but my dignity. They took my everything. And he memorized his manuscript. They had taken his manuscript, which is this book, which he put to memory. And it is so powerful, the message that you just delivered about being a survivor, because that's what you are. You're a survivor. And this is why I'm so passionate, I guess, about, victims. And, I don't know what it is, but, for some reason, I just felt like, even through my career, that, look, I have to do everything in my power to see that they're not re-victimized, because I've seen some pretty horrific stuff. And so, this is why so many people have our own stories. I call it, we all have our Gethsemane. And, each of us has our own story. But the powerful story that you just told, Josh, it's amazing that you have come so far, but you're the fruits of your fortitude to plow through it. Okay, which it's not an easy thing. I don't know what you've experienced, at all, but, I can tell you this, my mother was not shot and killed in front of me. Okay. And so it's a different perspective, the lens that you come from, but you teach. Now you have a responsibility to continue to teach through that authenticity that you teach through. Okay. And people will resonate to it because they understand it, because they can measure it in their own lives. And that's a huge responsibility. It's as if that woman was calling you to look through that peephole and to tell you her exciting day that she had that day, that he was back, and it was that single leaf that had shown himself again for the springtime, that life again began, even though ultimately, her tragedy. And he talks about it where it was the hardest day of his life, with all of the other stuff that was going on around him, was to remove her body from that Quonset hut. And, so you're plowing through, man. You're plowing through, and, don't look behind you. Don't live in the, you keep moving forward and you keep pressing forward, and good things will continue to happen for you. I know that to be a true statement, because there are very few, things that you can't put limits on a limitless God. He knows what he's doing and how he does it. And, so you keep pushing.
I appreciate you saying that, Chris. And right here, this comment is telling your story isn't playing the victim. It shows how far you've come, your strength. On the other side, none of us make it through this life unscathed. I'll tell you, I was a victim. I'm not a victim. And when I say that, I was a victim. My mother was a victim. I don't feel like a victim. I feel like I can handle almost anything, because I'll tell you the story and then we'll get out of here. And my mother used to sing to me, "You are my sunshine." And I love that song, but I also hate that song, because at the very end of that song, it says, "Don't take my sunshine away." The world has tried to take it away from me, like it has so many other people. But she will always be my sunshine. My sister will always be my sunshine. My children, my grandmother. They didn't, even though they took my life source, they took my comfort, I'm still here for a good reason. And I'm not a perfect human. I've done things that I'm never proud of.
You want to start a club?
But you know what? I was never going to roll over for it. I couldn't. And I don't want anybody else to, because I'm telling you, you got to fight back somehow, some way. It's not easy to do, but you can do it. And none of us are perfect, but life is tough. We just deal with it, and family and friends are everything. Even when they're not here, they're still here. I made a salad today for lunch. What came to my mind was my mom, because salad was her favorite. I felt good about that. It gave me a smile. And so I appreciate you being here, Chris. And
Your mom's proud of you, buddy. And you keep pressing forward. Just put your shoulder to the wheel, as they say, and just keep moving forward. And God bless you and all your lab rats here, guys and gals. I'm sorry this week. I've been so busy. I'm trying to line up for next week, but I'll start doing more on my channel. I apologize to you. Those of you who have been with me from the very beginning, but sure love you. And Josh, you keep smiling, and you keep pressing forward. I'm going to sign out, bud.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for the invitation always.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for being here.
All right, man. Aloha.
Aloha. All right, everybody. Well, thank you. That concludes our program tonight. I intended on doing about an hour. These things kind of happen organically. They happen organically, and I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset, and I'm not sad. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. Please don't. That is not the point. It's certainly not the point. And thank you for all the memberships and the super chats, super stickers, all the likes, everybody that showed up today. You guys are awesome. Not what I intended on, but I loved it anyway. Those would make the best shows. Those make the best shows. And I just want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being here.